So I will start. I'm Adriana with FOTechHub, and today we have the next edition of the Larry Krauss Family Office Technology program, which was founded by Phil Strassler, and I will hand over to him in a second to introduce our moderator, Tania, and our speakers. We have Arch on TMG and Elysys today, so a three-way interview. But before I hand over to Phil, just a quick announcement that on the 20th of May, we have a demo day event. So this is a multi-demo event, a conference kind of type, 4.5 hours, where we have some of the companies that have been on the technology program before. This is the second part to it. With visuals as well as some interviews. So we'll drop a link in the chat in a minute if you are not yet on the list and would like to join. And with that, I'll hand over to Phil to introduce our guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. So I'm Phil Strassler, the founder of the Larry Krauss Family Office Tech-NEW-logy Institute, which, believe it or not, has been going on for almost 4 years now. Tania actually was one of our originals way back when, and I consider her one of the best in the business. She's the founder and CTO of InfoGrade, which she founded in 1996. That's hard to believe. I didn't even know there was technology in 1996. And she found a need in the family office community for retained CTO services. Since then, InfoGrade has grown to provide consulting services on a myriad of complex issues, such as crossing applications for general ledger systems, applying security master attributes, modeling, attracting relationships, and managing tax or partnership accounting. InfoGrade provides project managers, developers, and subject matter experts to fill in any gaps and work with client vendors, leverage, and complement current technology. And when any one of my clients ever has a problem with technology, Tania is the first person I call. So Tania, I'll turn it over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate that. Yes, I was pre-Google, if you can believe that, and I'm sure people will be saying pre-AI at some point in the future. But I appreciate everybody joining today. I appreciate the warm introduction. Can't ask for anything better. So we have three wonderful panelists, but before we turn it over to them, I'm going to just basically set the stage and create a fictitious family office that we're going to use to talk through, and hopefully it's something that you guys can relate to. So this office, while it only has 50 entities, there is one complex partnership, and the trusts that go into that partnership can come in and out of the partnership on a monthly basis. So it's always one weird distinction, is how frequently can people move in and out of a family partnership. They have a couple single member LLCs. They've got some easy commitment-based partnerships. They've got 2 foundations. They've got 13 households. They've got 40 trusts. They collect over 100 K1s from private equity, hedge funds, and alts, which is, pretty common. They'll have over 15 capital calls in a month, so a lot of cash flows. They'll pay over 100 bills. They'll have 2 AP clerks, 1 or 2 accountants, a controller, a CFO, the investment team operations. They have 5 different banks, and they have numerous credit cards. Hopefully this is somewhat relatable to you on the phone. It might be a little bit less complex, a little less partnership oriented. It might be more complex, but that's going to be our sample that we're going to use to talk through. With that in mind, we have 3 vendors to create a robust stack to solve the problem, how to take care of the accounting for this family office and how to manage the operations. So the foundation of that, no surprise, everybody says you've seen one family office, you've seen one family office. But I will say that if you've seen one family office or you've seen 1,000 family offices, you can be guaranteed that they will have a general ledger in the mix. And so we've got Christopher from the TM group, who he and I have worked together on numerous clients, and he comes from the TM group, is a reseller of Business Central. And also, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm able to read the chat and echo in. But Christopher, so you help family offices like this one, both simpler and more complex, set up Business Central. Obviously, Business Central is a common pick because it's already part of that Microsoft stack, and many offices already use Office 365. And so in terms of security, it's already there. What would you say are the reasons that you see offices like the one that I described choose Business Central?
Well, thanks, Tania. Thanks, Phil and Adriana and everyone else for being here today. Yeah, as you pointed out, Tania, one of the biggest advantages to the Dynamics 365 Business Central product is that it is part of the Microsoft 365 stack, and we find that many, if not most of the organizations that we talk to are already running Microsoft 365 for their productivity tools like Outlook, Exchange for email, Teams for collaboration, and of course every accountant's best friend, Excel. So if you're already using the Microsoft 365 stack, you are likely using something called Azure Active Directory for your user access, logins, multi-factor authentication, and because Dynamics 365 Business Central is already part of that platform, and it lives in that same 365 tenant, we just assign a Business Central license to it. Of course, Business Central has its own security rules that manage user security and access privileges within the application, but the login process is essentially a single sign-on, simplifies things from a network administrator standpoint.
Perfect. That's great. Well, obviously, one of the things that all these offices have in common is they have more than one entity, right? In this particular example, we had about 75 entities across the foundation, the trusts, and so forth. One of the things that a lot of the QuickBooks, which we see quite common, is that when you have those multi-entities, it gets quite complex. There are multiple ways to configure Business Central. What's your favorite way and why?
Sure. Yeah, that is a common thing with family offices, is many entities, and we do often, as families grow, a lot of them start on QuickBooks and are managing multiple QuickBooks companies and logging in and out of multiple companies. So we leverage a multi-entity management tool within Business Central that allows us to keep all the entities within a single company, yet keep them separate for reporting, and it keeps things in balance with intercompany functionality, which allows us to make it much more streamlined so people don't have to be logging in and out of companies to run a journal entry or pay a bill or things like that.
So kind of tying those two together, you've got one company with multiple entities nested within it, creating that single chart of accounts, which is quite lovely and helpful when you're doing consolidations. How do you handle, you're also in you're in Azure, and you've got that Azure Active Directory. How do you handle the security when you've got the multi-entity? Can you still have the same granularity?
Yes. The security roles, as I mentioned, when you log in to your machine, or you log into your office to get your email and everything else, and then if you were to log in, you use those same access credentials to get into Business Central. But once you're in Business Central, it has its own security roles, which are tied to the entities, and so down to a finite level, you can control who has access to what entities and what within the entity they have access to. So although it's all in the same company, it can still be, broken down closer with security.
Perfect. Well, I can't last 10 minutes without asking about AI in the general ledger. AI is kind of the hot topic. Microsoft doing quite well with Copilot, and so many of our offices already engaging and using it. What are you seeing with Business Central and Copilot or AI? Has it become effective, or included in it, or is it like you see it coming and it's kind of on the peripheral? How are people engaging with it within their accounting system?
Yeah, no, Microsoft is a leader in artificial intelligence and AI assistance with their Copilot tool, which if you're using their other products, you see it popping up in Excel and Outlook and everywhere else. And they also, Copilot is a key component for their Business Central solution as well. And so they are utilizing it to help with, and again, it's an AI assistant. It's not going to do the job for you. It's there to make some of the more mundane tasks more efficient. One of the first areas that they embedded some Copilot assistance in is the bank reconciliation process. So Copilot is able to analyze bank transactions and suggest matches to help with and I know many of our family offices have, several, accounts that they're managing and reconciling. And so it's able to make that process more efficient, and it learns. So as it provides suggestions on matches, and if it gets them wrong and you correct it, it remembers that. And next month, if there's something similar, so that's kind of where the AI component comes in as well, that it continues to learn and get smarter as you use the tool.
So can you step us through an example of it, and how many clients, what percentage of your clients are actually taking advantage of this right now?
It was released last year, and I would say a good portion. I don't know specifically how many clients are using it, but a good portion of them are using it. An example, a lot of times would be on like a deposit where there's multiple individual transactions in the back office ERP side, yet from the bank side, it's a single deposit. So it's able to analyze the transactions and add them up and suggest, oh, this looks like these transactions go with this deposit on this date, and things like that as an example.
That's awesome. Well, obviously that kind of turns us over to the AP side of things. Are you seeing any AI on the AP side, not just the bank rec, or what are the various components that you're putting into Business Central to support the AP process and approvals, reading documents, and so forth?
Sure. Yeah, Business Central has capabilities for storing documents and linking documents. It also, because it's part of the the 365 stack, there's a part of that called the Power Platform, and a piece of that is called Power Automate, which is native to Microsoft 365. And we leverage the Power Automate platform Power Automate's an advanced workflow and data flow tool that we can use to create approval workflows both inside and outside of Business Central. Because Power Automate's part of the 365 platform, approvers don't necessarily need to be inside of Business Central. They could be approving things through Teams or through email. And then also, because it's embedded with 365, it makes sending out remittance advices to vendors seamless through email. And then back to your artificial intelligence comment, Microsoft has kind of taken the next step in what they are calling agents. They've already developed a sales agent on the sales side, which is in public preview, and they're in the process right now of developing what's called an AP agent. And the difference between an agent and like Copilot or AI is that with AI, you ask it a question and it provides an answer or some results back to you. With an agent, it takes it a step further and will actually do a process for you. So it'll not only just bring results back to you, it can actually perform a task for you. So again, it's leveraging that kind of intelligence to perform tasks and make things again more efficient and help. It's the whole goal is AI assistance.
And so what's an example of an agent within the AP process? Have you actually created one, or that's just kind of what you expect to be focused on? And I can ask you next year how many clients are using AP agents.
Yeah, it's still in development phase. I actually was at a Microsoft conference a few weeks ago where the guy that's the head of developing that was talking about it, and they're still thinking through how to apply this technology, what steps make sense to take a document and bring it into the system and then send it through an approval process, and where does that agent play a part in that process?
Okay, great. Well, there's so many, AP is such a big part of a family office. And there are a number of tools. Do you recommend using the Business Central one, or do you recommend having a third party one? What's the general stance on why, when?
Yeah, I'd say most of our family offices use Business Central. It's capable of handling multiple forms of payment, wire, ACH, check, obviously, and it's capable of managing multiple bank accounts. So I'd say most of our clients use the actual functionality within Business Central for AP and payments.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Obviously, one of the big pieces of any AP or any approval process is the capital call. It's one of our largest dollar movement outside taxes. And the taxes, unfortunately, you have to go to those damn websites to pay them. Still making it tricky, but at least in terms of capital calls, we've seen some improvements. And also with all the investments that these offices have, having some subledgers that actually track the unit or the capital commitments on your investments is super helpful. So we've invited Max to join, and his firm Elysys actually has subledgers that can help process model both the public equity and bonds and so forth, as well as all the illiquids, non-unitized assets feeding up and into Business Central, and then helping with reporting and so forth. So Max, do you want to talk about how you help facilitate the capital call process?
Sure. Hi, Tania. Hi, everyone. It's Max here from Elysys. So Elysys, with the same as TM Group, we are Microsoft partner. We've been Microsoft partner for many years, and we've also started to get involved into family office industry quite a while ago, about 15, 16 years ago now. Pretty much at the point where we realized that Business Central, that was called NAV at the time, it was a good system for family office. As you said, Tania, every family office has a GL. So if we just purely look at the GL, then Business Central is definitely a good platform. It comes with a lot of things you'd expect out of a good financial platform: accounting, general accounting, payables, fixed assets, banking, consolidation. So there's a lot out there already out of the box. But one of the limits, obviously, is to do with investments. Okay, if we start to use the platform as a standard to manage private equity or any other financial assets, quickly would come to some quite important limitations. So that means that traditionally, most family offices would have software for the back office, for the GL, and then a software for the investments, because in most family offices, there would also be some wealth management and investment management activities. So what we've then did from that point onwards is build some additional functionalities into Business Central to extend the ledgers and subledgers to an investment capability. So we've started with a simple equities management module, and then fixed income management module, and then funds. And then over the years, we've built, if you like, a full-fledged portfolio management system inside Business Central. That basically means that we're bringing the two departments, the investment management department and the back office department, together into the same platform. Okay, that's really the main pain points that we solve, is being able to have the whole of the family office using the same software with one single source of truth. Okay, so where traditionally the family office would hear some numbers from the investment teams and then some others numbers from the accountants. With this type of integrated system, we can really bring the two together, and then there is no way the two can be out of sync. So that's really is the first point. So from there on, we've added a lot of over the years different type of assets, financial assets, so marketable securities to support those who are doing short-term market investment strategies, alternative investment for more long-term type of investment strategies, derivatives, structured notes, options. We've added a lot, and over the years we've come across many different type of investment strategies, including private equity funds, so private equity direct or indirect. With this module, we can then capture all the inflows of cash in and out of the funds, but we can also use the system to revalue, so according to market price, using an automated tools that does the job of reevaluating, calculating the unrealized gain and loss, and booking those directly into the books. Okay, so that's the same process applies to all the other type of assets, which basically saves time of all the back office to have to book all of those type of entries manually.
Perfect. So lots of people have heard me talk about the 6 types of accounting, right? And fair market value, tax, and cost being 3 of the most common that come in. How do you get your cost into the system? And then obviously the investment people want to make sure that the fair market value, particularly on alts, is backdated appropriately so that it matches up against the benchmark, where the general ledger accounting system might want to close the books and so forth. How have you been able to handle that or straddle that difference?
Yeah, thank you. So to help with all the data entries and the market prices, connections, and everything else, we've developed a tool which is called Elysys Financial Gateways, which actually does the job of connecting to all the different parties, including the banks, including the market price providers, any sort of market players, to be able to pull all the transactions into the system directly from the banks, for example, or to pull market prices into the system, to pull exchange rates, indexes, benchmark, so that it can all be fed into the back office for revaluations, for data entries, but also then after the last components is being able to aggregate all of these data together. So once we've captured all the transactions, once we've captured all the market prices and the exchange rates, we can then feed it all into a reporting platform, because we know that when we look at Business Central, is designed for transactions. It's very good managing all sort of transactions, banking transactions, accounting transactions, portfolio transactions. But when it comes to reporting, then we really need something a bit more specific, and that's where we've added a component called Elysys Analytics, which actually aggregates all the data together across all the entities, across all the banks, across all the type of assets, and then is used then to provide any sort of report. So that's really how we do it on that front, Tania.
Perfect. Well, Charlie asked a question about the other 3 types of accounting, and this is a perfect question and certainly plays well to Elysys' strengths. So you've got portfolio accounting, which one of the Elysys subledgers helps. Partnership accounting, which is what we talked about at the beginning with that family partnership structure. And so if I have this family partnership over here and the trust invests in it, how do I take that trust percentage of that actual investment and book it into their investment subledger? So you've got portfolio accounting, partnership accounting, and then the ever so beastly omnibus accounting for your cash. So Max, in terms of the portfolio accounting and the partnership accounting, I think Charlie hit you up pretty nicely there. Can you tell us about a tax basis, or excuse me, cost basis and portfolio accounting, the matching strategy when the custodian might actually get the cost basis wrong?
Yeah, so partnership accounting is a broad topic. There's some partnership reporting that we do at report time by applying different percentage onto different type of assets or different entities. But we also have added a partnership accounting modules that helps with all the accounting that it needs to be done for each partner. So that's partnership accounting modules does the job of breaking down each entries into percentage owned by each partners based onto the company code. Okay, so that's something that we've done to help with the process. Let me just come back to also the tax accounting. This is also something that we've facilitated to, for example, for private equities. We've added some specific entries to help with the adjustment of the K1 adjustment that needs to be done so that it could be done together in this subledger as well as in a ledger, knowing that we'd always want to stay in sync with the investment subledger and the GL. This is really the key things in all those accounting, whether it's partnership accounting, portfolio accounting, or tax accounting. We want to make sure that the two stay in sync. This is the base principle around which the whole system is designed.
Perfect. That's great. Well, one of the big things in these family offices is obviously managing the alternatives. And you've talked about the subledger to handle the assets that aren't unitized and so forth, and how you mark to market that, post it to the general ledger, and also can do the analysis. Obviously, this data is mostly manual and has been historically. And so with that, maybe I'll turn it over to Ryan, who's helped us get out of that, horrible land where we're going out to over 100 portals and different emails and gathering it all to get this. So Ryan, give us some backdrop of how you and Elysys with the subledger have played together, how you have help with that capital call process and all of the other horrible manual efforts.
Yeah, thanks, Tania. Hey, everyone. I'm Ryan Eisman, one of three of the co-founders and the CEO of Arch. We started the company 7 years ago to solve the problems and pain points around alternative investments and make that data available and useful in all the other systems you use today. So what Arch does on a daily basis is we go to every portal platform. At latest count, there's over 800 different portals and platforms we're collecting information from, plus all the managers that send information via email. We collect every document, the K1s, the capital calls, the distributions, the account statements, quarterly letters, you name it, we get it, pull it into Arch, turn it into structured data, and then make that data available downstream into our partner platforms, or anyone who wants to write to our API, which includes some of the family offices on this call who have written to our API with the help of Tania. So we'll grab the capital call. We'll say, okay, X dollars are due on Y date for this entity. We have a payments module that's new that allows you to also verify that the capital call instructions are correct for that capital call. And then it's available within Elysys or any of the other tools that you would use Arch with in order to manage that capital call in Salesforce, do the subledgering of who needs to pay what for an entity that owns entities, to make capital calls and other alt workflows much, much easier. That's perfect. So what's the difference between the old-fashioned OCR and the new AI process? I think people kind of are trying to figure out, are you AI forward? Do you use OCR? What's the difference? Us tech folks love our acronyms, but they get a little bit confused. Give us some backdrop on that. Yeah, absolutely. So there are just three distinct processes in the technology we build. One is getting documents from all the different platforms. The second is digitizing them. And the third is what you do with that information, once it's standardized. So we probably have the most automation in the industry on collecting documents. Right now, it's about 91% of all the documents from all the various portals are coming into Arch automatically. Then we have an in-house services team that will get the remaining 9% of document collection. To Tania's question around OCR, OCR is really an old technology. What OCR stands for is optical character recognition. It means you're taking a picture of a document and then assigning some kind of like extraction to the picture of the document. So you're saying in this box, 4 inches down and 2 inches over, pull a number. The problem with that is oftentimes formats change and they change visually. Or if you scan a document or if there are other things, you might not be able to pull the information out of the document. And oftentimes there's errors in pulling information out via OCR. What we do is a couple different pieces of technology. One is like taking the data file of the PDF and writing like very tight templates to that data file to pull it out. But the latest advances in LLMs allow us to also run documents through AI-based extraction, always in a way that doesn't allow any AI model to train on your data, because that's really important with this type of data. But you can extract information using LLMs in a way that you can't with other technologies. But LLMs aren't the end-all be-all, because if you just use LLMs, you get to about 85 to 90% accuracy, which is not correct or not good enough for this industry. So you have to like train your models and highly fine-tune them in order to get information out in the right way automatically.
So, for example, like a capital call, if I was going into strictly a portfolio management tool where I was looking at performance, the net capital call amount of $3 million may suffice. But if I'm going into, Business Central and the Elysys subledger, I may want more detail about the components of that capital call. Does your system just automatically read everything? Does it know where it's going? How does that handle the when to send kind of, the macro information versus kind of the breakdown piece?
Yeah, we're generally separating the net amount from the component pieces. So you have a $3 million capital call, but 200,000 of it is fees, or a $5 million distribution. An X% is return of capital, Y is long-term capital gains, and then there's some other attributes. Or sometimes you have the mixed capital call and distribution together. So we want to know directionally, like, what's the total amount that needs to be paid or received. So then you can set up your workflow for either reconciling the distribution or managing the capital call payment, while understanding the subcomponents of that capital call so that you can properly account for them in your accounting systems.
Perfect. We had a question about the brokerage statements. Sometimes the feeds just don't come in properly, or they don't come in at all. If you have a random IRA account, or if you have a checking account, sometimes foundation accounts are in systems at the brokerage firms that just don't facilitate feeds. Have you yet picked up, and I know you've been asked since my clients have been ones to ask you, but what's your stance? Are you going to say, hey, directionally we're learning all of the alts documents and we want to be premier at that, or are you thinking you'll broaden out?
Yeah, we put about 98% of our energy into alts and really focus on being an alt-specific company, because that's where there's the most pain points today for investors and family offices and anyone that's kind of managing capital. That being said, we understand that collecting brokerage statements and collecting 1099s is also painful. And to deliver a more comprehensive tax package, we're kind of in a limited way for a subset of clients starting to offer the ability to collect your 1099s and brokerage statements into Arch. Not something that we advertise today, just kind of something that's like, if you know, we're starting to like have that offering. When we pull in brokerage statements, generally we're pulling very basic information off of them today, just since that's not the core focus. So some clients of ours don't have a good like family-facing reporting system and want something their clients can log into to see just like what value do we have in different entities, or how has that value changed over time. So we'll pull the latest value off of a brokerage statement, but not going into a lot of like the sub details or all the transactions within a brokerage statement today.
Perfect. Let's turn back towards, as you segued us to reporting. At the end of the day, we need to account and move all the cash around, but we also need to be able to communicate that and report it. There are multiple ways. Obviously, we've got Business Central that has a couple of different ways. We've got Elysys, which she talked about, and then as Ryan just alluded to, getting some high-level numbers, including the brokerage, can be possible. Chris, what do you see in Business Central in terms of reporting? There are a number of tools available, and what do you use most frequently in the past, and what do you expect in the future to be the most frequent?
Yeah, the reporting tool we utilize the most is a CPM, or corporate performance management solution, from a company called Solver, and it's a data warehouse tool that already has the hooks into Business Central. So the Business Central data just natively flows into the Solver tool, but then we can also point other sources of information into the data warehouse. So we have one single point for reporting. And we can also build custom modules, they call them, within Solver. So for example, we have some clients that have large art databases or collectibles that they're tracking and didn't have a good place to do that. They're doing that out in Excel. It's not something we can really track in fixed assets or something like that within Business Central, because these are appreciating assets and need to know where they may be on loan somewhere and all these kinds of things. So we actually built a art database within the same tool. So kind of think outside of the box for some of the needs.
That's awesome. And what about, I know Jet Report is another one you've historically used. Are you still using that? And why did you used to use it, or why are you not using it anymore?
Well, Jet Reports has been very popular with NAV. And as Max mentioned, that Business Central is kind of the evolution of NAV, which was a widely used on-premise solution. And so Jet was a key reporting tool for NAV. Some still use Jet for reporting. Jet can still be used with Business Central for reporting. I know Jet has gone through some ownership changes over the years, and we ran into some issues with that over the years. But that seems to have settled down, so it's still an option for sure.
Perfect. Well, obviously we've been talking Microsoft, so Power BI reporting is certainly a powerful one. Elysys and Max, I know that you all use Power BI. How have you solved kind of the data warehouse structure? And you've created some extra calculations relative to that portfolio management. Can you talk about some of your performance calculations?
Yeah, absolutely. We've started using Power BI so now 3-4 years ago, and clearly we were not sure at the time. We had a couple of demand, but we were not sure if this was something that was going to be really, really useful. But clearly, soon after we started, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year down the line, we've realized that was really what everybody wanted. So all our reporting strategy now, we've dropped the tools that we used to use before. All the report that we do now is delivered in Power BI through this data model that I've mentioned before, the data model that we built. We have the benefit of, over the years, with all the clients that we work, initially we did the data modeling for the on-prem system, so we had to do data modeling for each client. But for the last 1.5 years, now 2 years, we've been able to offer a SaaS-based data model, which meant that we can go much faster now. So when a client asks for a data point or ask for a new measures, a new risks measure or new performance measures, we can build that into this SaaS data model, which means it's then available to all the other clients connecting to the same data model. So that's for the last 2 years, it's been a real game changer for us. In that sense, we've been able to standardize a lot of the data modeling things that we do, especially for the investment activities, as I've mentioned before, also to support all our different clients with their own investment strategy, because each client, as you know, they all want to see different things. They all want to see different reports. And that's why we really need to have a very, very important, quite big data model to support all of those requests.
So one of the things, is that the general ledger system can be updated. They're going to be making a payment or changing, entering a journal entry and so forth. or they're doing a recon and they want to see that transaction or journal entry that I put in actually do what I anticipated it to do. Both in the data warehouse, it's obviously scheduled. Christopher, how do you see that playing out? And then I'll ask Max the same question. How do you handle kind of the more real-time questions, or how frequently do you refresh?
Sure. Yeah, that is a limitation of the data warehouse, is that it needs to be refreshed, and it can be scheduled as often as, I don't know. I mean, you could schedule it way down, but realistically, maybe every 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. But the tool also provides direct reporting into the Business Central system. So we have a way of doing reports, after you post an entry, to make sure that it's in there to balance things out. That's one of the ways of doing it. Or we also work with our friend Max and Elysys, and they have reports that are within the system. So like I said, we look at each individual client and see which makes the most sense, and we use that solution.
Do you think one has better real time? Like you use Jet if you want real time, you use Solver if you want to, have an Excel feel. What drives you where?
Well, the trick is there are multiple tools, as you said. So Power BI is, native to 365. So they're native, and actually Microsoft just released a bunch of pre-built Power BI reports for Business Central, and they continue to develop more. Obviously, it's more generic, but it's a starting point for some clients, and then they can modify them from there. So there's Power BI as an option. As I said, Solver can report directly against the data, so it doesn't necessarily need to be pointed at the data warehouse. And then the data warehouse, actually Power BI lays on top of the Solver data warehouse. So that's used for analytics and reporting as well. So
great. And Max, what's your refresh cycle like, and when do you think it applies? Obviously, if you're talking about portfolio management, you're not looking at necessarily, other than maybe stock prices, but even that, most family offices aren't kind of real-time traders. What do you see? Is that a strength, or is that like adjacent to what you do?
Yeah, sure. Again, it really depends, the investment strategy. For the less active investors, and they're quite happy to have just one report per day, end of day, investment report. For the most active investors, they want to see it pretty much real time. This is something we try and support as much as we can, but we're never going to be real time, because, as Christopher said, there's always a bit of time needed to refresh, to crunch all the data together, to do all the calculations, yet alone to calculate all the performance it takes, processing time. So that's something which we've worked a lot to try and compress as much as possible, but there's always going to be a lag time, so it's never going to be real time. But for most clients, including the most active clients, who's really active with a lot of marketable securities and derivatives and the option strategies and all of that, we can support them. We can support all the front office, all the team of investors in a frequency which is good enough for them. So we've not really come like a really showstopper on that, I would say.
Okay, perfect. So partnership accounting or partnership ownership splitting and look-throughs and so forth is always one of the struggles. People talk about consolidations, but when you consolidate, you need to figure out what percentage you have of those particular things. There are 2 or 3 different methodologies that you can use. One is to do on the fly, kind of take the ownership and multiply on the fly in terms of the reports. One is to actually book the entries on from one entity, and their portion can be booked on into the system. Max, you were alluding to the fact that you can actually do that posting. And then there's a third approach, which is sometimes people actually just give it to a fund admin, and whether it's their external fund that they may have in the Carlyle or Blackstone, or it's their internal family partnership, they might use a partnership accounting system or might use a fund admin. They could take the statements out of there. Obviously, Ryan can pick up those statements, those capital calls, and then route them into the system. So kind of three very different ways to handle the partnership booking, right? And so forth. What do you see, helping Christopher? Like, which way do you typically kind of route your clients to go? Say, hey, put the partnership in and do it all on the fly. Put the partnership in and use the Elysys subledger to book it, or go use a partnership accounting system, or go use a fund admin, hook up with Ryan and Arch, and then feed it through the system so it'll eventually show as a line item on the actual general ledger. What approach do you take?
In the past, we've been doing this for decades. Originally with a product called Great Plains or Dynamics GP, and now with Business Central. And the solver tool, the data warehouse, worked with both. So in the past, we'd always use the data warehouse, and like I said, you can build custom modules. So we would build an ownership module within the data warehouse that would handle the percentages and changes and book those. But it was all contained in the data warehouse, so you needed to go run the reports off of there to see that. Now we're kind of shifting more, now that we've gotten to know Max and Elysys, and there's opportunities to actually book the entries, and because Business Central is much more flexible and customizable. We're also working with a family office right now that on the NAV side had built an ownership structure table, and we're looking at leveraging that in Business Central to book the entries and manage it within Business Central and not need to go to the reporting engine to see the breakdown.
Okay, Max, even though you have the capabilities to obviously book the entries, do you always do that? Do you recommend that? Because then if something changes, you got to unnest all that stuff, and you say, hey, here's when you do it on the fly in the data warehouse, and here's when you actually should go ahead and book those entries. What's your status on those three, or those two?
Thank you. It's a broad topic. All the partnership accounting and partnership management. We can go very complex and we can go very simple. But over the years, again, to overcome some limitations with Business Central. Business Central, we have the capability to, it's a multi-company, it's a multi-entity, we can do whatever we want. But when it comes to partnership accounting and working with a high number of entities, it can be sometimes a bit limited. So this is also where we've an area in which we've done quite a lot of work to facilitate all this, what we call intercompany stroke multi-company operations. Okay, because partnership accounting is one amongst other multi-company operations, which is involved in big groups. You've mentioned multi-bank, bank, omnibus banking, this sort of thing. So over the years, we've created a tool which is called multi-company. This is multi-company tools, which installs on top of Business Central, which is a kind of a toolbox to facilitate all these multi-company and intercompany operations. It includes a lot of functionalities, including intercompany accounting, and it's also a tool that we can adapt to each particular project.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm in a massive storm, so I apologize if you guys can hear my rain. There's not much I can do about it. So one of the things is sometimes people go, we're going to keep the general books of all the trusts and all the people, but we really don't want to deal with the family partnerships. Yes, we did it to aggregate and get better manager access, but we don't necessarily want to have to do all of those calculations, or maybe we have crazy waterfall calculations and we need to go and get support from that. Ryan, if I decide I just want to not do my partnership accounting, I want to give it to a fund admin, or a partnership accounting system, if it's my partnership as opposed to Carlyle, we know you can go get the Carlyle fund. Is it all the same to you? You don't care if it's my family partnership or the Carlyle, partnership? Can I run it through your system and have you pick it up?
Yes, and we do a decent amount of work direct through fund admins, where fund admins will use us as an internal productivity tool for the work that they're doing. And so we're always happy to also make recommendations to Arch-enabled fund admins that are using Arch internally. We can collect statements from any fund admin, any fund. If you outsource it, you insource it, you have other pieces of technology, we're meant to just come in and replace that like manual work that's done today and give your teams time back and tools on top of it.
That's great. As much as I love technology and building the APIs, it's always great if I can just, the fund admin can route through you and I can just have one feed from you instead of having one for my fund admin and one for you for everything else. So that's very nice. I guess I'll wrap up with just the question that never gets old, but what makes a good client for you? What makes for a good successful project? And Ryan, I'll start with you. What makes a good client for you and the project goes successfully?
Yeah, but I think there's two things. That like, who's a good fit as a client is anyone with dozens, hundreds, or thousands of alternative investments in K1s. It's pretty binary. Firms either have that problem or don't. We talked to a lot of large family offices. They're like, yep, we just own buildings. And if you just own buildings, you probably don't need us. But then if you do have that problem, great clients are clients that like, we want to get into the weeds on future products. We love getting to build new things with clients and solving new problems for folks. So we just, this is kind of a sneak peek. We're launching a customer advisory board that we're going to announce in the next couple of weeks. And we love to go deep with clients on what's painful around your alternative investments today that doesn't need to be tomorrow. And then it's always, of course, great to have a single point of contact within the client. They can aggregate any feedback from other team members on where Arch should go in the future and how we can better address any problems that you have in your organizations.
We love it. You're so responsive to your clients. It's absolutely fabulous. Thank you. Max, what about you? What makes for successful clients?
I think what really is a key in any project that we take is the family office. It's a family office that is really looking to solve the integrations between their back office and their investment management team, and to really looking for an integrated system to run the whole family offices. And we like it when the family office comes with complex what we call corporate finance requirements, so including bill pay and accounting requirements and partnership accounting, but also when the family comes with complex investment strategy to support. We are capable of scaling, and that's is a good, definitely good typical project for us.
Perfect. And Christopher, to you, wrap it up. What makes for the best TM Business Central client for you?
Yeah, I get to go last here. I'm on Ryan and Max already mentioned a lot of things, but one thing I've noticed in the years of doing this is real successful projects have a strong project manager on the client side, and someone that really leads from the client side. You need that point person to help funnel things and also get things done, and to treat it as a true partnership, because TM Group's been around for 40 years, and we really value our clients and the ones that think of us as a strategic partner. So, it's a win-win typically in what we do. We're helping our clients solve business challenges and make their life easier, more efficient. And so we like a two-way street and work together on that.
I think that's a great call out, because I think so many people are confused. They see that they're paying for a project manager, whether it's with Elysys or with you or what have you, and they don't think that they think you're managing the project. It's a partnership, and each person needs to come with the project management, the organization, the ability to follow up on the things that they need to bring to the table. And so I think there's a kind of a misnomer that your project manager is doing the entire project. And there are so many details that go on the client side that your project manager doesn't have the authority, shall we say, or insights to be able to capture.
Sorry, Tania, but we're not the experts in their business either. I mean, as you mentioned, family offices are very similar in a lot of cases, but everyone's unique. as we find out. And so, yes, it's important on the client side.
Perfect. That's fabulous. We've got just a minute for any questions, something I didn't hit that people want me to ask. No, what a quiet audience. I hope that means that I captured it all or that I didn't put you to sleep. I appreciate everybody being here today, and I greatly appreciate my vendors. You guys are phenomenal. I've worked with each of you, and you're just an outstanding collection of people. It's not just what you give in terms of software, it's the service that you provide with that. So I really appreciate that. Obviously, Phil, Adriana, appreciate you guys putting this all together and letting me highlight these fabulous folks and how they can help.
Well, thank you, Tania. Thank you, Ryan, Christopher, and Max. Tania, you knocked it out of the park again. It was really great. A lot to learn, and there's a lot to integrate in the conversations in some way, shape, or form. But this looks like a really winning team. So I want to thank everyone for attending, and we'll see you at the demo day on the 20th.
Thank you all, and I'm glad this storm didn't kill your connection or cause any blackouts.
It's true. It was short. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.